And now we come to our next speaker, who's going to be talking about something called the fifth wave of innovation. Completely new concept to me. This speaker is none other than Venki, as S.N. Venkataraman is fondly called. He has a career spanning 25 years with ITC paperboards. He's worked in field sales, key account management, international sales, and as the head of domestic sales. During this period, ITC PSPD has steadily expanded its business and is today a dominant player in packaging and graphic paperboards. Venki and his team have worked closely with FMCG, pharma, food and other packaged good companies in meeting brand packaging requirements by bringing world-class products to the Indian market and propelling ITC PSPD to a leadership position. Venki's other passions include finding out what makes teams tick, travel, exploring the digital world, and building the necessary connections for further sustainable packaging. We want to thank Venki for having the faith in PS and having signed up for a 3-year partnership with us. The topic of today's presentation, as I told you, is the fifth wave of innovation. And let's welcome Venki on stage to find out what he means by that fifth wave.
Good afternoon. Am I audible? So it's good to be back here. We were sponsors for the Print Summit 3 years ago, and we are back here again. So Fahim, Sanjay Patel, I think you guys got us back. So this session after lunch is usually very challenging. Fahim has warned me that you guys are not interested in listening to sponsor talk. You've been telling me that for the last 2-3 weeks. So there's not much of sponsor talk. We wanted to show paper and print in a certain perspective and also look at the forces which are influencing whatever is going to happen in packaging print, and I hope you guys like that. So that's what we mean by the fifth wave of innovation, the future of paper and packaging. So if you go back in history, whatever it is, 3rd century BC or millennium, you had papyrus in Egypt, which started all printed or visual communication in a kind of way. So these were made from grass reeds, and a paper sheet or papyrus was formed. So paper today owes its origin, at least in name, to papyrus. And it's still cellulose fibers which got bonded in papyrus, and in paperboard today, it's still cellulose fibers which are bonded. After that, you went into a period till the Middle Ages in Europe maybe, or even in China, where there were manuscripts which were made of animal skin or palm leaf, or even in India. And you can see that the population which had access to all this was very, very limited. The global population itself was very small. So that was the next wave of innovation. So how did information spread? How did communication spread? So that was the second wave. The third age, you guys are all aware, and you are the beneficiaries of that, the movable type, Gutenberg, the printing press, the letterpress, which evolved later into litho and various other type forms. And that was the start of the age of Gutenberg, and really books and information in a big way as we know today. And along the way, the paper industry also kind of developed. So our machines, which were initially very, very small and making small tons of paper. So today, you have machines which are making 1,200 or 1,500 tons per day of paper or paperboard for packaging. And the paper industry developed along with print. So as the litho offset industry developed, which is what most of you have, and as the gravure business developed, the paper industry also developed in order to supply you papers. And what is the next step? So people have talked about digital in the morning, about various forces influencing the business. A lot of it in the morning was a very high standard, and it was more about your experience in running a business. So this is more a peep into a bit of the future and what could happen and what could influence your business as we see it. Okay, so today we are 7.3 or 7.5 billion people, and we are called that confluence. So there are many forces acting together. You guys know many of it, but we'll just go through it. So we believe that there are 5 sets of forces which are acting today, which will shape at least package print. So one is around the consumer. How is he evolving? What is happening there? So that's going to matter for the brand owning companies, and therefore it's going to matter for you, and therefore it's going to matter for us. The next set is regulations and compliance. So they are increasing. So you know that, I don't know how many of you are package printers here? About 30%, not more. So I don't know, when you are participating with the end companies now, with each supplier, you're open to annual audits, you're filling many forms, You're talking about traceability of your paper. You're talking about conformance in your press, for example, whether you use solvents or you don't do solvents and things like that. So, regulations and compliance are increasing, especially with respect to food products. And the third set of forces we are called something loosely as innovation around paper, print, and design thinking. So more and more people want to design it correct. I mean, the best example of a design thinking company would be from outside our business, the paper or the print industry. I think you'll have to go back to Apple as one very easily recognizable example as to how it transformed itself from an ordinary business into something which gave that extra dollar margin. So it was about design of the product, but it was not just about external design of the product. It was also about the way the business was done, what went into the design of the product, the very minimalist aspect of it, the packaging, for example, which is largely on paperboard and a solid board at that which was used, and also the way they sold. Design thinking is also about designing for distribution, designing for manufacturability and things like that. So it's about the way things were made and sold, and that's what propelled them to be different from any other companies making mobile handsets. So why do they get a delta, as someone said? They get a delta probably because I'm going to design thinking given. But then others are catching up and they're finding it difficult today. So that also we know. So all this doesn't stay. Sorry, I think I missed the other fourth. So sustainability. So climate change and sustainability are ranking top for most people, except maybe for the US president, okay, who tends to make a bit of fun of it. But it is going to influence what brands do. It's going to influence, therefore, what packaging materials are used. And it's also interacting with regulations and legislation in a way. And the last is something which happened 2-3 years ago in Davos. Today, again, people are in Davos, so a lot of yarn comes out of there. But there was a report called the Ellen MacArthur report which got circulated, and that today has become the basis for sustainability in a kind of way. So all this thing you hear about plastics in the ocean, no plastic straws, no single-use plastics or less single-use plastics, are all originating from the Ellen MacArthur report and its attempt to make the world much better and to increase recycling of plastics and also proceed forward. I think we lost the connection a bit. I mean, till it comes along. So the first set of forces are around consumer expectations. So in emerging markets like India, single-use packs and growing use of single-use packs is a necessity, and that's been happening all these years. And if you look at our population and you're going to look at the working population, I think till 2050, the Indian working population is going to grow. So the working population would be roughly from 16 years to say 60 years. So they're all going to have disposable income or something to spend, and they're going to grow in a certain manner. Thanks. So that is going to happen. So there are a lot of use of single-use packaging. At the same time, you also have a set of consumers who also want things which are a bit more natural and organic today. So you have many brands which are actually exploiting that aspect. Patanjali entirely rose due to the natural essence or ingredient portion of their business, and that resulted in all the existing FMCG and food companies responding in kind. So even Colgate, the mighty Colgate, was forced to launch a Ved Shakti and kind of, try to stop Patanjali's progress. So there is this consumer interest. Third, I think there's a global Indian who is now traveling everywhere. So maybe there are 50 million Indians or 100 million Indians who aspire to lifestyles as in Europe, the USA, or anywhere else. And that actually is a trend towards a bit of premiumization. So they are not going to drop their personal standards of living or their preferences, So they could be in South Bombay, or they could be in Chelsea in London, or they could be in Manhattan in New York. And this is a kind of global culture with respect to products that they kind of use and the brands that they kind of do. It's a bit of attitude. And it also goes with a very digitally connected culture today. Things spread very fast. I mean, brands can get destroyed in moments, if you don't handle it very correctly. So everyone is an expert. So the moment you have a handheld device and you have Google, I think everyone is a kind of expert. So these are some of the forces, which are playing around the entire consumer expectations point of view. So these are trends which people can tap into, especially the consumer product companies or the food product companies, and that in turn influences our packaging. So what you discern from this, people are interested in recycling. I mean, if you look at surveys around, Indians as a population are highly interested in recycling. Whether you will contribute an extra paisa or something like that for it is a different question, but you are interested a lot in recycling as a population, much more than other populations elsewhere. Sustainability is a concept, and the movement towards it, a lot is within Europe, and especially Northern Europe, where it's actually practiced. Surprisingly, Brazil also leads the world, for example, in a high degree of recycling and sustainability in the cities. So these are trends which are there across the world. I think I'll have to refer a bit now to my presentation a bit further. So one set of forces around consumer expectations. That will take time. I'm okay. I think I disrupt. Okay? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, the second set was about regulations and compliance. Now, how many of you know about the Food Standard Safety Authorities of India? All the package printers at least? You know. How many regulations how many new notifications or regulations did they do in 2018, calendar year? 27. I read about that when preparing for this presentation, or I wouldn't have known that myself. So, pesticide use in foods now probably have a regulation. Something about limits of pharmacological activity, maybe in a over-the-counter cosmetic or something like that, which comes under Drugs and Cosmetic Act. Now we will have some regulation attached to it. So there are many areas, including in packaging, where FSSAI now is rolling. And by 1st April and 1st July, what is a natural product? Even natural product like honey or something which you extract from bees are now going to have standards and how you're going to pack them. So all this is happening now at a very fast pace. And you need to be aware of it. The companies would be aware of it. It would force you into compliance. So FSSAI is just the tip of the iceberg there. Your states, you in Bombay know it very well. So what happened 6 months back or 9 months back? You are the first state to actually limit the use of single-use plastics within Maharashtra and in Bombay. And today there is something called the extended producer responsibility, which the state government wants to do. So all of you must have got notices to show that what are you doing for EPR, as it's called in a short form. We have got, our Bombay office has got a notice from somebody sitting in Thane in the municipal commission. I don't know why from Thane to our office in South Bombay, but you have got a notice stating that what are you doing for EPR? Have you set aside a budget? Are you spending it in some manner? ITC is a large company. We are also an FMCG company. So there is some amount of plastic packaging which goes into. So they're asking us as to what are you doing in order to ensure that some of this is collected and recycled. So we do have, as you know, a collection movement, which is the well-being out of waste, WOW movement as you are called. So you're ahead of other companies, but you need it to be more institutional. So regulations are not only on food products, they're also on fiber. So many of you, if you're exporting a product, and it's on paperboard packaging or paper packaging, there are some species of wood trees which are banned, and these are all available in a kind of compendium. So acacia, for example, which is forest grown in Indonesia, would be at risk. Okay, so plantation wood is not at risk, but you would have to fill in declarations. You would ask us, for example, to show complete traceability of the wood that comes into a mill, which we convert into paper or paperboard, which we supply to you, which you then convert and make it into packaging, and it goes. So you're becoming very, very connected that way in terms of the entire network. So otherwise, you get excluded from that entire kind of chain. So just to show one or two examples of this way regulations are influencing business, especially with respect to package print. Indian food standards are common, so all of us are aware of, FDA and the German regulations to which we show food contact. I think Indian food regulation also has started coming in with prohibit heavy metals and similar. Migration tests, I think, by and large, would continue on the American FDA kind of model. So there are many, many more, which are, if you're in medical packaging, for example, it's incumbent on you, if you're selling drugs, for example, is go to elderly patients to make sure that they're able to open it, they're able to comply with it, and things like that. So packaging helps quite a lot there. But these are all newer regulations which are coming in. So even tamper-proof and safe for children is another one. And overall in the business area, you have something called this Ethical Data Exchange, SEDEX. How many of you have heard of SEDEX? Very good. So some of the corporates here. So the bigger companies today insist, and they would come and audit you too, that if you are supplying to Unilever, they would come and audit you for your labor standards, your treatment of women, the hygiene in the kitchen, and things like that. Especially, yes, pharma company people, I can see they're nodding here. So big pharma companies, especially the ones who are multinational, are now implementing that quite strictly, and that's the difference between whether you're in that value chain or you're not. So these are all major roles which are playing, and as India globalizes, and modernizes. And as you grow bigger in scale, these are things that you've got to take care of. So that's the second force. So the first one was around consumer, next was around regulations, and the third is around paper, print, and design thinking. Innovation, when it happens, one, it can happen in your existing business. So offset gives to digital. So you can do a batch of one today, personalized today, customized today, so those things kind of keep happening. In our business, for example, in paper, we are slightly upstream from you. We are actually less flexible. Our machines get wider, they get faster, which means we like to make the same grade more often and not have many changes. You like to have a mix of such things. There are a few large brands which are large runners for you, and there are many small items, so somebody in pharma would know that very well. So what is your utilization of the press in pharma when servicing a pharma customer compared to somebody who is a general package printer or servicing a FMCG business? You have far more changeovers, your workflow is different. There are so many country guidelines to kind of conform to. So digital workflow becomes very, very important for you. Important in general for color, but pharma, there are other considerations also which kind of come in. So there is innovation which happens around these things, and that's what the regular print industry and the machinery industry has been kind of doing well. In our case, as I told you, lightweighting is one thing which happens. So you use less board for making packs, so maybe buy a lower GSM board because bulk and stiffness goes up. And people who have been in the trade for 20, 30 years would know that the bulk or stiffness of the boards have increased by about 30, 35% from an ordinary recycled grayback board to the kind of wrap board that we, paper board that we kind of market today or sell today. There is one more aspect of print which is now coming in, which is its integration with the digital economy. So I don't know how many, Tiago, when it got launched, how many of you knew that, how many of you recollect that, there was a little bit of that augmented reality business about it. The newspapers sent you a cardboard specs, and you could read the print in it. You got extra text or a link to a website, and maybe you could book a test drive immediately. So there is something you can cover in a certain square millimeter area in print or square centimeter area in print, and there is something more that can happen when you engage with the digital world. So it's another dimension altogether. And finally, for the companies, it's all about consumer engagement. So you are giving more information for the same machine time, so to say, or on the same sheet, which you did. So I think these things are opening up. Many of us buy home improvement items and stuff like that today from Home Center, Home Needs, or all these companies. And you get, morning we had the first gentleman show that people were printing 10 kgs of catalogs in order to sell some set of items. Imagine if you had a home improvement item, and you did have that special glasses which are needed for AR or VR. And apart from the manual instruction of step 1 to 10, it also told you in video form or visual form. Maybe it's connected to an app. I don't know how many apps finally all our mobile phones will hold, but maybe it's connected to an app. It enhances the consumer value. So he would know how to assemble, for example, a table or a chair or something else that he bought, an electrical item that he bought, how to connect it. So I think print will get married in some of these forms. There's already print and e-commerce, but print with some of these existing business will also add value. It will be a medium, but it will also enhance by getting some of it into that AR, VR kind of augmented reality or virtual reality kind of world. All this will mean you're getting connected digitally. There has to be an app to support it and things like that. So when will it happen? Which business will it happen? Which of you will actually be part of it is something that remains to be seen. I mean, traditional areas of innovation remain. So I talked about the batch of one, digital. Speeds are one. You are probably going to face, with all the single-use plastics, companies are going to say that remove some layer of plastic. We have seen it, for example, it to happen in the Dove moisturizing cream bar, the soap. So what used to have LDP or HDP now doesn't have that. And we have delivered a new board that saves the serve fitness for purpose. So there is an anti-mold component incorporated in the paper board, which means that Dow does not need to have that layers of plastic which it had. If all of you are package printers, if you're doing OTC product or FMCG products, my guess is about 20-25% of the business that you do today would be on Metpol laminated board, surface printed with UV, blah, 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 all that, right? So you need replacement sometimes for the film laminated boards. And you may need to get it out of whatever is the next new technology, which of course has to be kind of efficient. So you're reaching a certain point where some of these trends are actually happening. So earlier print finishing was all about gold, glitter, and all that, but it also may mean that you have to give similar effects now through some other means, which makes that product a bit more recyclable and sustainable. So that is something that could happen sooner than later. This is just to give you a dimension of what is happening within. And as I mentioned earlier, underpinning all these things, what you do for the consumer, what you do for your business, what you do in a connected way, design thinking can be incorporated into all of this. So whether the big companies do it or you do it as a proposal to the big company, that's a different matter. There are some developments happening in paper, but none of it, which is, again, it's going to be scalable, more faster, it's whiter. Light fast is an issue, so we are working on it. So trying to make boards which retain their shade for a longer period of time. These are the conventional things happening in paper. But the biggest plus for paper, I think, would be our sustainability proposal. So with all this global warming, there is only one industry which is founded on a raw material, and which is ours, the paper and paperboard industry, which can actually fix carbon dioxide. Right? So everyone else is using something which is a resource, which is buried deep in the earth, and is taken out. So whether you're using coal, whether you're using oil, whether you're using water, all of it is like that. Okay, we also use coal, oil, and water. But we can mitigate our resource. Because our business is finally founded on cellulose fiber, and you know where that comes from. That comes from plants and trees. Okay, so if you bought a ton of paper from us from our plantations, which is based on our plantation wood, where we have done some arithmetic to show, you would actually be fixing 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide. So that's a claim we can make. No other packaging material or any other business can make. So when I talked about the Ellen MacArthur report and designing, say, for sustainability, you're going to see probably governments or such thinking nudge you towards something which is more based on cellulose. See, paper can't replace plastics in all its forms. But you have the evolving field of bioplastics, a lot of which are biodegradable, many of which today don't run well on conventional equipment which run the conventional plastics, but are evolving in a certain kind of way. So there is a certain set of requirements which don't have high barrier, which are being done on bioplastics today. So that's an area you should be aware of and you should be working, because your customers are going to ask for it. Maharashtra has a ban, tea in Tamil Nadu has banned it from, even the paper cup is banned in Tamil Nadu, which is one of the strangest pieces we have come across. Because it has plastic lining in it, and the plastic lining is less than 7% by weight of the total cup, right? And they're still banned saying there is plastic in it. Because they had come through the draft legislation, I think they have issues, if they withdrew some notification in the last minute. But they allowed bioplastics. So India today has a lot of these slightly knee-jerk kind of regulations coming in. If the FSSAI plays a larger role, I think the recommendatory guidelines would kind of supersede what's happening. You also have a central Ministry of Environment and Forest, which has a Plastic Waste Management Regulations Act. But the simple point is, whether you do bioplastics or, as one of the speakers here may talk about, they have some barriers, or the next speakers may talk about, which are water-based or emulsion-based, as they call it. You can get into new packaging solutions for a lot of food products, especially, where some kind of barrier is required. So that is something in the way you're headed. More and more cellulose-based products will probably come in. Okay, you can actually see a tree as a refinery, just like you see crude oil getting broken down and so many fractions coming out of it. You can see the tree as a refinery. We take the fiber. What is left out can actually be used for something else. You can draw carbon from it. You can make carbon fiber from it. Okay, you can burn it as fuel. You can even extract some special chemicals from it. So for all that, of course, you need full traceability, and you need to, of course, be doing more. So today, in ITC, for example, we have greened 683,000 acres. And today, we are a carbon-positive company for the 12th or 15th year in running. That means all of the carbon emissions that we do across ITC, not just the paper business. We are by far the largest users of coal-based energy and therefore the largest emitter. The planting program that we do more than compensates it from a factor of 2:1. So I don't think many businesses can claim that. In fact, it's so successful, we want to take it across, because we developed our clonal propagation or biotechnology like that. And we could work with associations like you, BMPA. So you can green highways. So it all depends. You have to talk to the Maharashtra government if they're interested in greening a highway. We would be happy to work with you. What you get as members, you have to see from the government. But today, we are working with the governments in Telangana and AP, for example, on such kind of projects of greening highways. So whoever has driven in the US knows that, on both sides of the road, you have that 30 meters patch, which is maintained by the US Forest Department, and so green and nice. You could have the same thing in India. So if you have the means. And it's a lot of green cover and wood, which you kind of need. And of course, it will be ecologically done and it will be well maintained. So that's the promise that we bring to. So remember that finally paper does grow from trees. Even if you cut, we plant more of it. And cellulose is going to have a large say in the future, not only in packaging, but maybe in a lot of other products, especially when you want it recyclable. So when you design for recyclability, in an engineering product, you may think of easy assembly and removal. If God were a designer and designed for recyclability and sustainability, he would choose cellulose as the building block. Thank you.
That was brilliant, and to do it without your slides, that was even better. So a big round of applause for Venki, and Iqbal to please come up on stage to please give Venki a memento for that fabulous presentation without the slides. And we are going to take up that offer on the greening of the highways, definitely. Thank you once again, Venki. Thank you, Iqbal bhai. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we've had this technical glitch. The generator wire is burnt, and in another 7 minutes, we're going to have it on. So luckily, we have a PS quiz ready. And also, we have that prize for the person who's come from the furthest distance. Super. So can anybody tell me who's come from the furthest distance? I heard someone 240 kilometers. Anybody more than that? Yes, sir? 5,000 kilometers? 500 kilometers. Anybody more than 500 kilometers? From Delhi. Do you know the kilometers, sir? So about 1,500 kilometers? Chandigarh. That's very far. No, I need to hear one sound. 2,500 kilometers. From Shanghai, not counted. Within India, please. Otherwise, we have the Norway guy. He's going to get the gift. From Assam. Okay, anybody can beat that? And this man has been coming to Print Summit for the last 4 years. From Assam. I think the prize definitely goes to him. Please get me a prize. Will the president please come up on stage and thank this gentleman for come all the way from Assam 4 years in a row. Big round of applause to this lovely gentleman. And your name is, sir? Rajiv Sharma. Thank you Rajiv, and thank you Nitin bhai. All right, now the quiz. We've got 7 gifts to give away. Which US president is on the $100 bill? So now this is going to be difficult. So we need mic runners and we need one person. Stand up and give me the answer. Yes. Sorry? Perfect. Anybody else? Franklin. But Franklin was never president. Franklin was never president. So this is a trick question because I do need to waste time till that comes on. अरे नहीं था भाई Franklin. अरे बाबा Franklin ही था note पे, but he's not president. So it's a trick question. No one can get the answer. Now a real question. Who was the inventor of the RH factor? Who was the inventor of the RH factor? Anybody? That blood factor wala? Nobody? Max factor. Anybody? Yes? Carl, yes. And ahead? Sorry, I can't give you the prize. It was only half. I can give you half a prize though. So it was Carl Landsteiner, but no prize for you, sorry. Easy one now. HTML stands for? Okay, the person who comes up first on stage. Quickly. Most of you all know it. There you are. Come quickly. There's another guy coming. And it is called?
Hypertext Markup Language.
Hypertext Markup Language. The winner, the president, please come up on stage. Please come, sir. Lovely. HTML. And the winner is from? Mohit Jain from Renuka Softtech. Oh, Software guy gets it. Lovely. All right, so the next one is, oh, lovely. Shall we do one more? Yeah, I think they want it. The driest place in the world. Which is the driest place in the world? Who said that? Lovely, wonderful. Please come up on stage. It's the Atacama Desert in South America. Will the president please come up on stage? Lovely. And sir, your name is? Adnan from Creative Concepts. The Atacama Desert, the driest place in the world. Lovely. Thank you very much for being so patient. And thank you, event organizers, for getting that cable repaired so quickly.